welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
And I'm Sara.
And we have got a pretty WSL heavy episode for you this week because so much has happened and we are really going to focus on the rise of one team and the downfall of another because we need to know what's going on with Chelsea.
What is going on with Chelsea? We've got in the back half of this episode some news topics that we're going to talk about, including Crystal Dunn's retirement. Was she the greatest NWSL player ever? They explored this on the Full-Time podcast, and it's a great question, and we might take a dive at it, but so much other news as well. Of course, we're going to kick it off with WSL because so much happened. Should we just get right to it, Allie?
Let's do it.
It was quite a weekend. 5 games were played. 1 was postponed, Allie. Arsenal-Leicester City postponed from this weekend.
Yes, because Arsenal were playing in the tournament that we talked about on News in 10. It was quite funny, actually, because they only announced the postponement on Thursday when this tournament has been announced since the summer, and Arsenal were going to be playing regardless of whether they got to the final or not.
Right. There was a consolation game and a final. Yeah.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be. Why did you take forever to tell us it wasn't happening?
And I mean, we talked about this. This was one of your gripes with the tournament where you're like, this is interfering with the WSL season now. There's so much to say about the inaugural FIFA Women's Champions Cup. We're going to get onto that in the back half of this episode when we talk about news. Spoiler alert, Arsenal won, but there's more to it than that. Let's get back to the WSL. More games were played, more results were had. The most surprising of them all, we have to just dive right into. Chelsea fans, I want you to take a really deep breath, and I want you to remember that Allie and I are not the enemy. We're just the messenger. Okay? Because Manchester City took down Chelsea 5-1. Last week we said this title race was over. If it wasn't over then, it's certainly over now. But this is what we have to get into. Allie just texted me, downfall of Chelsea. And I was like, 100%, that's what we're talking about. And that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do, I think it has to be said, as bad as Chelsea were, City have been fantastic and were fantastic in that game. So shall we first give props to City?
I think we have to, but also I think the thing is because of how dramatic that scoreline was. Like, I thought City were going to take it. Like, going into that, I genuinely thought the form they've been in, they've gone on this unbeaten run. I thought they were going to take it. I thought it might be a 1-0 or maybe a 2-1 or something like that is genuinely where I thought, because I thought these teams were closer matched. Boy, was I wrong.
So you certainly were. There's so much comparison between these two teams. And as we get into talking about Chelsea, I think more and more might come out. But the two things that stand out most to me, number one, City are efficient. You look at the statistics and City didn't have that many more shots. They didn't have that many more shots on target even. They were efficient. And efficiency used to be almost the trademark of Chelsea. They didn't need a lot of chances to win a game. They needed 1, maybe 2, and usually that was enough and they'd take it. And that has been totally flipped on its head. City used to be this team with outstanding names and talent on the roster. And everybody's like, why isn't it coming together more? It's just totally flipped. You can take the narratives from basically 2 years ago and just switch them. And that is a tough place for Chelsea to be in. And so many props to City because this team has come together. And we talked about Chelsea. I'm going to question the coaching. We have to do the opposite on this City side and applaud the coaching.
Yeah, this is what happens when you get a proper coach in, like, that actually knows what they're doing. There definitely seems to be a new, verve to Man City. Maybe you could say it's less game congestion because obviously they're not got Champions League this season. And we do tend to see with Manchester City specifically, when they don't have Champions League, they tend to rise up and really focus and get themselves together for the league. We've seen that countless times.
But there's a difference. It looks different this year. We've seen that countless times, but they didn't win the title. And they look like a City team we've never seen before. And they look so together and so in sync. They are just a system that is so hard to break down. They are so disciplined. And we have to talk about Caroline. We have to talk about Caroline. She had a hat trick. She's been outstanding. There was a stat in the game. She had scored or assisted in 7 straight games coming into that game, and then she got a hat trick against Chelsea. She's been outstanding. Everybody in that field has been outstanding. City deserve all of this, and this was a statement. Like you said, I think for those who thought City would win, they didn't think that City would win like this.
No, exactly. To be 11 points clear at the moment of the of their nearest rival, which is Manchester United, it's outstanding.
All right, so let's talk about it. Let's get into the Chelsea of it all. Okay, where to even begin? Listen, the first thing that I thought when watching specifically this game, because we can talk about this game, but we also have to talk about this entire season. But let's start with this game. This is, in my opinion, a coaching problem. First and foremost, there's probably a lot of small issues, but the biggest thing for me is that this is a coaching problem. And I have so many things that will prove that, but I'll start with my first bullet point. We'll call this point 1. I believe it was last week, Sonia Bonpastor, in a press conference, the week ahead of playing City, said, yeah, the title race is pretty much over. She then walked it back later, but what do you think that does to your players when you're going into this big game and the players hear their coach say, yeah, it's over. It's over.
I have less issue with that because you just have to look at the table and they go, yeah. Because they were saying that the title race was over when they were 6 points clear last season. So to be 9 points behind, no team has ever come back and won the title with the losses and the draws that they had. So that one for me is less of an issue.
That's fine. I have plenty more to bring up. Answer me this. Did Chelsea look unmotivated, flat, lacking energy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it plays a role. You can't say it doesn't. If you go into that game thinking that it means something for the title, you're not going to come out as lackluster as Chelsea did. It just doesn't really happen. That being said, they've been kind of lackluster all year. We'll get into, again, it's like, what do we want to talk about? This game or the whole season?
There is definitely an issue with coaching. And we can talk about the Sonia Bonpastor of it all. But I feel like this team is split. There is not the cohesion we have seen from previous Chelsea teams. They were always very one for all for one. You know, that whole Musketeers thing. This has been since the beginning of the season. There has been a division and a split within that team. And you're starting to see it like, and we can talk about it more later or we could talk about it now, but the Millie Bright post-match interview when she was asked by the BBC what did she think went wrong, because this is a crushing defeat for Chelsea. They have not conceded that many goals in a very, very long time against the team. There was a stat going around saying that Caroline's the only player to score a hat-trick against them. That's not true. Beth Mead scored a hat-trick against them when she used to play for Sunderland. We're talking many, many moons ago, but it's still true. So the last time Chelsea conceded 5 goals was against Arsenal in the 2018-2019 series. So there has been a division. And when Millie Bright was asked what went wrong, why was this such a, let's be honest, a disaster of a performance, her very sarcastic, and it was very, if you listen to the clip, was, well, their goalkeeper made more saves than our goalkeeper, putting the blame very much squarely on Hannah Hampton. And you can feel there has been this issue between the defensive line, and I mean that mainly Millie Bright and Hannah Hampton since the summer, since a certain other goalkeeper who shall remain nameless released a book, and it was very clear that Millie Bright was on the side of the other goalkeeper, not her own goalkeeper. And if you listen to the podcast that Millie Bright does with Rachel Daly, they were very, schoolgirly about it, and it was very sort of, the Mean Girls thing of like, oh, we don't talk about drama, but it's like, Millie, you are captain and your goalkeeper needs defending and you're not doing that. It was very school ground bully, but that's by the by. And they have not fixed that rift at all.
Yeah, listen, that's outright wrong of Millie Bright to say that publicly, first and foremost. Outright wrong. it sucks that she kind of like put Hannah Hampton back in the middle of the drama. Mary Earps did that. Millie Bright did that. And we don't know what goes on in changing rooms. We don't know what's going on in the Chelsea changing room. We don't know what's going on in the England changing room. We don't know if everybody's seeming kind of distaste for Hannah Hampton off the field is justified, if it's as pervasive as it seems, if it's not, if it's just a couple of loudmouths. We don't know. But whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. You don't say that publicly. And now let's shift to the game and say, Hannah Hampton didn't have an outstanding game. A lot of those goals, though, I would not put on Hannah Hampton alone. Without a doubt, would not do that. I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, obviously, the back line of Chelsea isn't gelling. Naomi Girma and Millie Bright, I don't think play very well together. I think they're two outstanding center backs. For some reason, it's not working. It's not gelling. There has been some issue around the back line for Chelsea. In this game, I would put it on everybody, though. Like, it's not on Hannah Hampton. It's not even just on the back line. It's also on the midfield, who couldn't keep control of the ball, lost the ball quite a bit. One of those goals was lost by Kira Walsh in the center of the pitch, and City capitalized. Like, that is a wild statement for Millie Bright to make. And I'll say, I think that comes back around to coaching. I think Sonia Bompaster's team is undisciplined in many, many ways. And that is one of them. Another one, you look at the third goal, the one where it was a Chelsea corner, like an offensive Chelsea corner, and City got a breakaway. And they got a breakaway because Chelsea left nobody home. Nobody was on the halfway line as a defender. That is the most undisciplined you can be as a football team, to not leave a defender back. Like, the general rule of thumb, anybody who's played knows, you leave one more defender than there is attackers. Meaning, if City's not pushing anybody up in their defensive formation on a corner kick, you leave one person in there. If City's pushing one attacker up, you leave two people. It is so simple, and they are so undisciplined. And that comment by Millie Bright, I feel like, just shows the lack of discipline. And that comes from the coach.
I do, yeah. I mean, I do think the coach. I do also wonder her, like, squad choices.
I totally agree. I'm curious if you're going to, like, call out the same ones I'm going to.
So let's talk about squad choices. So first thing is Aki Beaver-Jones. Aki Beaver-Jones is a prolific goal scorer, has been a prolific goal scorer for Chelsea, has been a prolific goal scorer for England. Why is she coming on at 73 minutes?
I wasn't even going to call that one out, but I couldn't agree more. For me, I was thinking this, and then I was really happy. Whoever was on commentary for us in the United States, when I watched on YouTube, for the first 25 minutes, I was thinking this. And then finally, whoever's on the analyst role and commentary said this, and I was like, thank you. You're going to come out in a formation with Alyssa Thompson as the number 9 and Lauren James out wide? What are you doing? And then you're going to try to send crosses into the box because Chelsea couldn't get into their attacking box, so they're going to try to cross the ball into the box. Alyssa Thompson, I don't have her exact height pulled up, gotta be 5'2", maybe 5'3" on a good day. And what's her strength? Speed down the outside, down the wing, getting a cross off, shot from the corner perhaps. It is not playing the true number 9. It's kind of screaming like Gareth Taylor trying to play Roosevelt in the wrong position. It's just like, what are you doing? You can't get Alyssa Thompson on the ball where you need her if you put her at the 9. You have Lauren James. She can play wide because she can play anywhere. But if you're lacking something in the midfield, why not just try her at the 9? Why not just start Sam Kerr at the 9? Like, the personnel choices as a whole were terrible. And then on top of that, I just think there's too much change. There's too much change between systems. And then there's too much change within the system. There's no consistent starting 11. And it's just not working. None of it is working. She doesn't know what to do with her personnel.
No, and so also she came in with a back 3, which is always dicey.
It's not going to work either when you have 2 true center backs in Bright and Girma. It's just not going to, you can't play a back 3 with that formation or with that personnel. You just can't. And it just kind of screams that she has no idea how to manage all of these players at once and make it work and make it gel. She just doesn't. And it really does show what an incredible job Emma Hayes did at not just managing personnel on the field, but clearly managing egos off of the field, which it doesn't seem like is being done a in a good way at Chelsea right now either.
No, I was talking to friends about this, and I compared it to, and this is a men's football comparison, but it's quite apt. Manchester United have struggled, their men's teams, once Alex Ferguson left. Alex Ferguson was a manager for them for years, led them to their greatest success outside in the Premier League era.
I know who he is because of the Beckham documentary.
Okay, so you do know who that is, but he is one of the greatest football managers of all time. When Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United, they've had just constant change of managers, and they can never quite get back to those glory days. And I feel like Chelsea, not that they won't get back to there, but they are going through that hiccup of Emma Hayes leaving and someone else coming in. And maybe Bompasta wasn't the right person. Maybe she is going to be the David Moyes of Chelsea and only, be the fall guy, because filling Emma Hayes' shoes is very, very hard. I don't know. Maybe they didn't look hard enough, because the WSL is a different beast, and some great managers have come in and failed in this league. Bompasta, you can't just, disregard her Lyon pedigree. You can't, but it's a very different thing. And like you said, there's a lot of well-established players and egos and if the players don't want to play for you, then they won't.
And that's part of managing professional sports, is you also have to know how to manage egos. This is a locker room. You can look at any sport. You could talk about it in soccer, in basketball, in American football, whatever you want to talk about. But professional sports is a locker room full of people who have throughout their entire life been the best player on the team. And now suddenly you have to manage all of those egos who all feel that way. And it's a lot. I think you're right to say, like, whether it's fair or not for her to be the fall person, because she has hit an unfortunate almost transition moment, right? Where kind of half of Emma Hayes' crew is still there and the other half kind of departed. And it's a weird in between where maybe that locker room could be split by that divide. And that's really tough to manage. And that takes a strong manager to do so and a strong personality to do so. Do we think she's using the WSL? Like, okay, let me put this in the context of she believes that the title race is over. And we believe that too. Do you think she is coming into this City game now just using the WSL as a way to test out different formations and test out different personnel to utilize in Champions League? Do you think she's kind of fully throwing the towel in for the WSL in a way and assuming that they'll win the games against the mid and lower table teams no matter what?
Well, that didn't work because they got beat by Everton.
I agree, but like, is there this is like a total half thought, but I just can't understand her choices in the starting formation or in the starting lineup in the personnel. So I'm trying to justify it by saying, is she potentially just looking at Champions League, which for the record wouldn't be smart because, honey, you still got to get into Champions League for next year too, and that's not a guarantee.
Well, that's the thing, and that's the other thing I want to talk about, because maybe she is, because the only way that you can guarantee you're getting into Champions League next year is to win Champions League. There is a very, very slim, don't come for me, Chelsea fans, but it's true, there is a very slim chance Chelsea won't qualify for Champions League next year. The way they have fallen, they are currently in third, just above Arsenal, and Arsenal have a game in hand because they were playing in that stupid tournament that we talked about. If they carry on playing their way, there is a very good possibility they will finish fourth, because they had to beat Arsenal and they had to beat Man City and they didn't.
I apologize that I'm smiling, but like we have to talk about the fact that and this is maybe how we wrap up the whole Chelsea topic. Everybody other than Chelsea is smiling at this demise. And that's just what happens when you win for this many years in a row. Like, everybody wants to see this. And everybody's kind of elated to see them fall to third, which for the record is still a great standing, like a great place to be in the table. But for Chelsea, it feels like a colossal failure.
It's given the three-peat documentary all over again.
Stop that right now. Don't you dare. I never watched that. I couldn't bear.
I'm just saying, it's that level of wanting their demise, though. You can equate Chelsea with the US women's national team in the fact that unless you are a fan of said team, that you do want them to fall, and
That if your team can't win, the next best thing is just to watch them fall, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
My last question. I have a last question because this is big talk in the UK and I want to get your perspective of it. There is calls now to yank Bright from the squad because of her comments about Hampton, or give her the captaincy to someone else. Because if that's your captain saying something, and I'm not opposed to either option, to be honest.
What do you mean by yank her from the squad? You mean sit her for one game, or you mean
just bench her. Just for a game, 2 games, whatever, just as a consequence that you can't speak out of turn like that, especially about your own teammate.
My initial reaction is that if Sonia Baumeister doesn't do something like that, she's fully lost this locker room. You have to do something like that. You have to show that there is some kind of control here. Like, sports teams aren't democracies. They're just not. You have a head coach, you have a captain, and you know what? You go where they go. And otherwise, the whole thing falls apart. And if you don't buy into that, the whole thing's going to crumble. And we're watching it all crumble right now. And to have your captain speak out like that is so bad. If Sonia Baumeister doesn't do something, then I don't know what she's doing as a head coach. Like, that is essentially putting her hands up and saying, I have no power in this locker room whatsoever. 100%. Something should happen, whether it's a captaincy given away. I'm more partial to benching Millie Bright and watching to see if she can change her attitude on the field, off the field, everything. If she can't, then we'll take the captaincy away. But 100% let's bench and see what happens.
I'm very much in agreement, I think. There needs to be consequences. Like, say what you want in the locker room. I have no beef with, like, being open and frank in the privacy of the locker room. But we don't need to hear it. This is not something that we need to know about.
Who's your pick? Who gets the captain's band?
Erin Cuthbert.
Ooh. I think that's fair. She's earned it.
Exactly. She's a solid player. She's vocal. You can hear her all the time. I think a lot of the teammates respect her, so I would give it to Erin Cuthbert.
How would you feel? I mean, like, just imagine being Hannah Hampton and hearing your captain say that publicly about you.
Yeah. And, like, she's already had to go through all of that with the Mary Earps book.
The irony of this all is that all of these players, like, trashing Hannah Hampton is making us defend her.
Yeah. It's not doing what you think it's going to do.
It's actually giving favor to Hannah Hampton. Like, the fans are now giving favor to... What's that?
Do they think we're going to agree? Do they do these interviews and we're going to go, you're right?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we have to say yes. Otherwise, why would they say that? Right? But even if Millie Bright was right in that, and even if I did agree with Millie Bright in that, I still think it's wrong of her to say it.
Just not publicly. You can say what you want in the dressing room. Just don't do it now.
All right. Well, the demise of Chelsea continue, Allie. Sunday, February 8th. At a reasonable hour-ish for me, 6:30 a.m., Tottenham hosts Chelsea. This is a big one in many ways because you can look at this and think, oh, good, maybe something a little easier for Chelsea. Sure, it'll be a little easier, but Tottenham are having a season and they are keeping pace with everybody right now. Tottenham are sitting just 1 point below Chelsea.
Yep, they could nick the Champions League spot. Like, crazier things have happened.
So what do we think? Will it continue? Will the demise continue, or will they turn it around?
The only thing I will say is that Tottenham are going to be without one of their key defensive midfielders because Drew Spence got a red card at the West Ham game this weekend for a very dangerous tackle on Ueki. So she will be out. And that could have been make or break. But I do think that Tottenham are having a moment right now. And it's not going to be a given for Chelsea, and if she's going to keep playing random formations and random squad lists, then if I'm Tottenham, it's for the taking.
Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
So España and Barcelona are now 10 points cleared this weekend after their 4-1 win over Seville. Second place Real Madrid also won 4-2, whereas third place Sociedad could only manage a draw against Tenerife.
Into Mexico and La Liga MX, Club America and Guadalajara are tied at the top of the table after their wins this week. Toluca is down to 3rd despite their win this week, and last year's title winners are down to 8th.
And to France and Lyon are still undefeated after their win over old rivals PSG. They are now 12 points clear of second place Nantes, who could only manage a draw this weekend. Third placed Paris FC also want to keep a hold of the last Champions League spot.
And finally, to Germany. Bayern Munich remained on top despite not playing this week. Second place Wolfsburg closed the gap with their win over Cologne. Leverkusen jumped to 3rd after their 4-0 win over Nuremberg.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Now to a newsy segment of this podcast, because some things have happened in the world of women's football as a whole. So we are going to start off with, I don't know, should we start off with the tournament that I will not name?
Let's start off with the tournament, also because we did a great News in 10 last week where we really dug into how we feel about this, and that was after the semifinal results, but we hadn't gotten the results from the final. I guess my very quick recap of what we said on News in 10, Allie, was A, you can't really compare how good or bad the NWSL is based on their results against the Gotham's result against the Corinthians. A, because that really doesn't do justice to how good the Corinthians are, and you got to give them credit. And B, because Gotham are in, literally, this was week 1 of preseason. This was like a hello, nice to meet you, my name is week for them. And then point 2, I guess most important that we talked about on News in 10 is that we both wanted the Corinthians to win the final. Am I missing anything? We also talked about how we feel about this tournament as a whole. Yeah, but I think we've made that very clear.
Yeah, we've made that very clear because I won't name it. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch the Gotham SFR game because that happened.
What?
That was happening as I was travelling home from my game. But I did watch the Arsenal versus Corinthians game. I will say that was actually a really good game of football. For anybody who didn't watch it, you missed out. It was a very good game of football. Corinthians were toe-to-toe with Arsenal. They were defensively insanely strong. Every time Arsenal went 1-0 up, Corinthians came right back. It was very close, and it wasn't until like a forward goal in the dying minutes of extra time to stop it from going to penalties is how Arsenal did it. So honestly, it was a good game of football.
3-2 Arsenal was the final score. As Ali just mentioned, the Caitlin Ford extra time goal is what put him over the top. I didn't get to see it. Ali has already berated me about being a bad gunner, so no need to do that in the comments, please. What is there to say? Is there anything that this result in this game says about the world of women's football? Or did it make you feel any type of way?
Other than that this tournament was pointless? No.
Made me want to watch the Corinthians.
I was going to say, it did, as we said on News in 10, it did show that the South American game is coming up, and Brazil as a whole seems to be leading that charge, both in the league and internationally for South America. So that I thought was great. It helped showcase something that was not so European-centric, because that is mainly what happens over here, is we focus on, the WSL, the La Liga, Bundesliga, the French league, the Italian league. We don't really look elsewhere, so hopefully that's going to shine a bigger light on different leagues. But that was about it. I'm not going to lie.
I personally wanted Corinthians to win just to kind of quiet the haters online that we're all kind of out here being like, oh, like Corinthians beating Gotham proves that the NWSL is a trash league. We're not going to extrapolate about that one result and then decide that this is commentary on all of women's football globally and which league is the best and blah, 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 or whatever. What we can say is that the Corinthians are an incredible team. I wish we could watch them here in the U.S. We don't really get to see them. You guys don't get to see them. I suppose I do have a VPN, so I'll figure that out because I will be watching them. This is what Brazil needed. 100%. Like, let's focus in on the world of women's football within Brazil, who has been a nation that on the international stage, we know the individual talent that they possess, but they've never been able to put it together. And in recent years, all of that talent has started to come more and more from players who are playing their soccer in Brazil. And we're starting to see the rise of the Brazilian leagues. It only takes one team like this to start to move the needle higher, and everybody else then has to invest and follow. So good on the Corinthians. And ahead of the 2027 World Cup in Brazil, this is incredible. Like, this could be the start of like a movement that we're seeing that culminates in Brazil crushing it in the 2027 home World Cup. Like, this could be England Lionesses Euros. This could be U.S. Women's National Team 1999. Like, this could be that type of movement for Brazil women's football. This is massive. After I'm like, don't extrapolate. And then I'm like, this is the biggest movement.
No, I agree. I do think this is going to be good. And the money they got for coming second is going to absolutely boost them. And it's going to be a good thing. So those are some positives to it. Let's be a bit positive. We can be positive to that.
Yeah, I think that if I'm Gotham, if I'm the Gotham players, I'm like pretty pissed because I'm being forced to play in this tournament week 1 of preseason when this should be actually like an ease into football on my body. And now I'm playing 2 games in the course of 4 days. Not an ease in whatsoever. What might make that worth it is a nice chunk of change in my pocket, but I'm not getting that for 3rd place either. So if I'm Gotham, I'm not super pleased about this. And if I'm the NWSL, I'm second guessing letting my team play in this next year if it happens again.
Please don't speak that into fruition.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll just have the Club World Cup in 2028 in Qatar, Allie.
So, big news that came out this week is Crystal Dunn has officially retired from football. I'm not going to lie, when Chris told us in our group chat, my response was, did she do that already?
She did kind of like fade into oblivion once she signed in France and moved overseas. Started to not really get a lot of playing time and just kind of like faded away. My first reaction was like, I hate that in the public eye she kind of had such a fall from grace because of her husband's stuff. You know, like her husband's stuff, he got embroiled in the scandal, and I don't think she would have been linked to that had not then been like he got a job at Gotham FC once they signed Crystal Dunn. It felt very clear that like, okay, this was negotiated. I am going to just look past that and beyond it because that's not her legacy. I don't want that to be her legacy. I don't want that to be how we talk about her. She was an incredible club player, an incredible player. For those who don't know, she was the last person to get cut from the U.S. Women's National Team right before they won the 2015 World Cup. If you ever watched the ESPYs, Abby Wambach accepted the award for the U.S. Women's National Team in 2015 and specifically called out Crystal Dunn and was like, I'm going to thank everybody on this team for all of the effort that they put in, and also Crystal Dunn, because while she's not on this roster, she helped us get to where we needed to be. And of course, we know her time in the 2019 World Cup, balling out, playing out of her position. She never really got to play her true position on the national team, and yet I would argue she, especially in that year, was one of the best, if not the best player on the field in any given circumstance. MVP caliber seasons, golden boots in the NWSL. That 2015 season when she didn't make the U.S. Women's National Team was maybe her best. She balled out to a high degree. She was the MVP, golden boot winner. This is somebody who was a staple in the league, in the national team, and honestly, battled a lot and took on a lot more barriers than any other player really at the time. Like she was she was consistently the only, if not one of two, Black players on the U.S. Women's National Team, and that's a lot to take on. So we just have to. This whole era is coming to a close, and it makes me so sad whenever any of them announce their retirement. Crystal Dunn will definitely go down in history as one of the greats for the U.S. Women's National Team. I can't wait for whenever they honor her. U.S. Women's National Team, you better honor her before a game at some point. You better do it, or there will be uproar.
But it did lead to the question, is she the greatest NWSL player of all time? And you sent me that, and my response was, no. She was good. She was great even. But is she the greatest of all time? No.
Okay, so the full-time podcast, which is the Athletic podcast, brought this up. I didn't listen to the podcast or their debate. I did read the article that said that they brought this up. And I was like, that's interesting when you think about it, because you have to specifically look at NWSL player. Let's think of some great players that have played in the NWSL. Start with the U.S. Women's National Team. Alex Morgan wasn't a great NWSL player, right? Megan Rapinoe even, she was a good NWSL player. Was she a impactfully great NWSL player like she was on the U.S. Women's National Team? No. Honestly, I would put it between Crystal Dunn and Sam Kerr. Sam Kerr was prolific in the NWSL, but she's up there.
I'm not saying that she's not. I do say that she is up there, but do I think she's the greatest of all time? Not when Marta is still there and is still balling out the way that she is. Like, there are definitely players that I think have been more successful in the league in terms of individual player. I do think Dunn is up there. For sure, I think that. But I wouldn't put her as the GOAT.
No, she was MVP in 2015, as I mentioned. That year, it was 15 goals in 20 games for Crystal Dunn. She was NWSL Player of the Week 6 times and Player of the Month in August that year as well. She also, by the way, won the Shield 3 times and was an NWSL champion 3 times in 2018, 2019, and 2022, which if you want to compare with Sam Kerr, I don't know how much trophies mean in the trophy case to you, but Sam Kerr doesn't have that many trophies in her trophy case, nor does Marta in terms of the NWSL. So an argument can be made. But I see what you're saying. It's probably Marta.
I was gonna say it's and when she finally retires at 55, we will say we will say give it to Marta. But
I suppose I'm here to say it's not as insane as it seems upon first hearing it.
No, I agree, and I didn't dismiss it out of hand, but I was just like, there are certain players I feel like have had more of an impact on the NWSL. But Dunn is 100% up there, and it is a great loss to the game. But like you said, she kind of petered out when she went to France, so we'll say that she ended on a high at Gotham.
Speaking of Crystal Dunn, who at some point in her great NWSL career played for the Portland Thorns. We have Portland Thorns news that any Portland Thorns fan already knows and is very disappointed in. But this is a heartbreaker. Bella Bixby, Portland Thorns star goalkeeper, has announced that she is out for the season before it has even begun with a torn ACL. This is now the second torn ACL of preseason for the NWSL. And we are fresh into preseason.
Yeah, to already have that, like, being put on the season ender list is not great.
I mean, this is the Portland Thorns team that just lost Sam Coffey, and now they've lost Bella Bixby too. Obviously, two different things. Coffey's at Manchester City right now.
I was going to say the good Lord giveth and the good Lord taketh away, because Sophia Wilson announced that she will be back ready for the opener. She's been training, and that's wonderful. And then the Bella Bixby news.
Yeah, the highs and the lows of women's football, for sure. I can say one thing is that I'm really excited to watch Portland's new center back, Elise Evans, who I think would have done great in front of Bella Bixby. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more for that back line to do. We'll see how Portland handles this. The good thing is there's kind of a plethora of insanely talented goalkeepers in women's football right now, almost like too much talent for the number of starting roles that there are. So that is the good news for Portland.
And that is it from us at the Women's Soccer Show. Make sure you check out our Patreon. Me and Mike did an episode of The Other 8 last week where we ran through all of the transfer news from the WSL. You'll also find out why I have a one-sided beef with Katie Zellum. So that's worth your subscription money alone. But as ever, this has been the Women's Soccer Show.
I've been Sarah.
And I've been Ali.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.